Hello there, wonderful humans. Welcome back to Board Game Dads. My name is Anthony,
And my name is Eric.
and we're back with yet another board game holiday spotlight. Today, if you haven't guessed by the background and the t-shirts already, we're talking about superheroes. That's right, it's National Superhero Day, April 28th. And so we've got a couple games each that are all about these masked people. I was going to say masked men, but there's a lot of women as well.
There it is.
So before we get into that, Eric, I know that superheroes in general, comic books, I should say, very near and dear to your heart, big part of your childhood.
Right.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about how that, I guess, first started and how it's still going on now?
Well, I guess my first introduction, me and my brother, that is, was cartoons. You know, there was Spider-Man and his amazing friends and Fantastic Four that were played in the early 80s. And then all of a sudden, the X-Men and the Spider-Man both came out. Those were just all, and then there was like a whole cartoon, Iron Man cartoon. They just came out with a bunch of good ones after that. But yeah, that first X-Men cartoon, that was money.
I recently started rewatching that on Disney Plus, actually.
Yeah, they had a lot of really great characters, and that really got me into it. And then they had action figures for all the characters in the show. So I had a lot of toys. I had a lot of the trading cards, the Marvel cards and X-Men cards. We had a lot of those. And then I've been reading comic books since I was like, I don't know, 11 or 12, I guess, maybe 13, but probably 11 or 12.
Did your brother read them first, or did you guys kind of do that also at the same time? Do you remember?
I think we both started reading them at the same time. Now, my brother read a lot more stuff, so he could have had a head start. But I remember one year for Christmas, my dad rolled up a couple of comic books and shoved them in the stocking. And mine was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book, which was okay. And then we were like, oh, we want to go to the comic book store. So we went to Time Warp and bought some comic books, bought some X-Men comic books because that was probably on TV at the time. I don't remember, but that was what I was interested in. Also based on the cards, I liked Archangel and Iceman, and then Gambit was coming around. He was probably around by then. I don't know. I love comic books. I've loved comic books for a long time. The video games, remember the X-Men game for Genesis? I don't know if you played that.
Yeah, I played that at your house for sure.
And the arcade game that we talked about.
Yeah. Then there was the arcade game, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we did. I guess we should preface this with saying that we actually recorded about 75% of this episode
true.
last week, and the power went out here at my place. There was a storm, and so that whole thing was lost, and we were just very disgruntled. And so this is actually take two. So there's that. But yes, we did talk about the X-Men arcade game in the arcade with the multiple screens. I think it was 3 screens. And that tiered kind of arched platform with joysticks for up to, I don't know, was it 6 players, 5 players?
I want to say it was 6 because it was pretty big. It was at least 4 because usually
it was 2 per side of the shape. I think, on the mechanism on the machine. It
was at least 4.
Yeah,
but that was unheard of, right? Like 4 people squeezing in to try to play one game isn't going to happen.
And it was an epic game. I mean, it was level upon level, and talking about characters, all kinds of villains that you fought in there, and special powers, depending on which characters you were playing, they could have combined powers, I think, as well. Or am I thinking of another game? I know you can do that in the Simpsons game. That might have been the Simpsons one.
No, I think in this one, you just, each person had their, their, I don't know, A, B, and C attack.
Yeah.
And one of them was like a charged attack that you could only do occasionally. And it was, spent a lot of money at the, what was it? Game Plaza?
Plaza Game Room.
Plaza Game Room.
Plaza Game Room. Yeah. Back when it was a quarter.
Yep.
But yeah, so obviously in the household there with Eric and his brother Sean, many a comic book character to be had, and I've mentioned before on here as well. But walking down to that basement sometimes when they were in right smack in the middle of a scene or something with these action figures posed all over the basement, various things happening at the same time, which is great because that's the way comic books are, right? When you get to a part in a comic book where there's multiple panels and there's just fights going on in this realm and this other planet, something else is happening at the same time. It's crazy. And that's just one of the things that makes this ripe for board games, which is, basically why we decided to talk about this one today. Honorable mentions, of course, to start. I know Eric has a whole lot more than I do, so
I'm not going to name every Marvel game that I own or have played.
Okay.
I'll just name a couple. I'm not going to go crazy.
All right.
So I'll go first.
Go ahead.
And I want to just give an honorable mention to a game called Overpower, which was a card game that we played way back. Probably one of the other reasons that I was into comic books was we played that maybe in the early 90s.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was a fun game to play. And, it was collectible card games. So you had to keep going out and buying booster packs if you want to get all these other characters. But we did. The other game that I wanted to mention was Wonder Woman Challenge of the Amazons.
Mm-hmm.
That game came out. I know we've talked about that. That's why it's just an honorable mention. But what a great game.
Yeah. Very great cooperative game. I mentioned it before too, that it just was not on my radar at all. I'm not a big DC fan in general, but I was glad that Eric recommended it, picked it up at a good price, and we like it a lot. If you do want to see us talk about that, by the way, I'll put a little link up here to the Read Across America video, which is where we talk a little more in depth about the Wonder Woman game, so you can check that out. Suffice to say, there's a whole lot of games out there based on superheroes and comic book characters. I've got one honorable mention, which is the Marvel edition of Disney's Villainous game. It's an honorable mention for me personally because I have not played it yet. It is in the collection, but hasn't gotten out yet. There are, I believe, 5 villains that you can play in that game. There's Thanos, Hela, Ultron, Killmonger, and Taskmaster. And just today, the day of this recording, there was the first expansion announced for that, which has, I believe, Loki, Madame Mask, which I did not know of that character, had to look her up, and MODOK as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so there's that. Apparently, we collect Disney villains in this house now, so I guess we'll be getting that one at some point.
I did have one more honorable mention.
Hit it.
Marvel United. Now, I don't own this game. I've never played this game. Probably not going to get it because there's so much content that I'd have to get it all. But they just started a Kickstarter. I mean, depending on when this airs, maybe they started it like a month ago. But they're doing a Kickstarter with the X-Men. Cool. And there's some really cool characters. And a lot of times you don't see a lot of X-Men in board games nowadays. It's mostly just the Avengers. Sure. Because they're there's some property thing with like movies and X-Men and then the Avengers. And I don't want to get into that.
Yeah. Well, it'll get there eventually, I'm sure.
Yeah. But they also have a stretch goal for like a bunch of stretch goals for new characters. You can get all these different characters and you can get Strong Guy. Yeah. Strong Guy is a character that not a lot of people know, but me and my brother love.
So he's one of your favorite, like sort of lesser known, under the radar.
My brother and I, most of the characters that we like are like C-listers.
Okay.
They're not like the top. Oh, everybody loves Superman. Everybody loves, Iron Man.
All right. So let's get into some real picks here. Eric, I'm going to give you the option of going first or second, because you can either go first, obviously, for the first game, or you can close us out with your last pick. So because this is comics, is all about you, it's your call.
It's not all about me.
No, I don't mean it's all about you, but this is your you're looking forward to this one.
I love comic books, so I'll go first.
All right.
And this game that I want to talk about is HeroClix. Right. It's got Marvel HeroClix, got DC HeroClix. I mean, I don't play it much anymore. I haven't played it in a few years at least. But maybe 2007, 2008, somewhere around there, I started playing it. Loved it. Have a whole bunch of characters. All the characters that I could name or know, I had. There's a few that they never made, unfortunately. But I had a lot of characters, and it's such a fun game. And I won't buy any miniatures games. Anytime a miniatures game comes out, I'm just like, I don't need it. I don't need to spend the money on a miniatures game. I have HeroClix. If I'm going to play a miniatures like battle with somebody, I want to do it with superheroes. I don't even want to know what your game offers because I don't want to spend the money and spend the time playing a miniatures game. That's not HeroClix.
Okay.
But in HeroClix, as with, I assume, a lot of miniatures games, it's a lot of rules, and you really got to know it well in order to play it. So it's not a game that somebody can come over, oh, what do you want to play? Oh, I could teach you HeroClix. It's going to be me showing them how to defeat me the
Sure.
entire game.
Sure.
So it doesn't get to the table that much anymore.
Yeah, definitely a big barrier of entry to that game for sure, which is unfortunate, like you said, because it's probably fantastic. I mean, obviously people love it.
Yeah.
Like you said, they've made every character almost under the sun. Um, is this a game that you think you would get back into with someone else? Like if the opportunity came up, like, because I
Oh,
know
yeah.
Melissa doesn't like it that much, right?
It's not that she doesn't like it. She either has to study it so that she can play where I'm not showing her everything and how to do everything.
Right.
Or she just has to play it a whole bunch and a whole bunch. We have to just constantly play a whole bunch of HeroClix until she starts to remember and associate these different colors. Because there's like an attack, a speed, and a defense. And there's, I don't know, like 15 different colors that each do something different. So if you have a defense of a number and a color, you have to know what that color is for defense. And then you have to know what that color might be for offense if it has the same color, So it's just there's a lot of bookkeeping.
Yeah.
And until she learns that, and we don't have the time to play a whole bunch of games of HeroClix, not with all these games over here.
Yeah.
But yeah, if like my brother or like my friend Gene came down and was like, hey, let's play HeroClix. Those are the two people that I used to play with all the time. Absolutely, we could play a game. Maybe we'll play teams, and then Melissa can learn more.
Fair.
But yeah,
that would make more sense because, like you said, if you're just teaching someone new and it's one-on-one, you're kind of like, well, if I were you, I would do this, and it's like, how fun is that really for you or that person? It's kind of like,
right.
Is it really enjoyable at that point? So that's an interesting point. I will say that we did make good use of some of the HeroClix figurines when we were in the middle of or back when I should say when we played Dungeons and Dragons. It was fun to go through them and use them for either monsters or sometimes just our characters. We would sub them in every now and then. So that was cool. We just had a whole box, bring them over. These are all my doubles. Go to town. Cool. All right. So my first pick here is also well, I shouldn't say also because you have DC and Marvel in HeroClix. By the way, is there any other properties that have HeroClix besides those two?
Yes, I believe they made Invincible.
Okay.
They made some Hellboy. And then I think there's like Dungeons and Dragons, maybe Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay. And then there's probably a few different ones that came out after that. But I kind of fell out of the hobby at that point, so I don't know much. I do think that there's actually a Wonder Woman expansion or set that just came out recently or is coming out that I think I saw on maybe Roy Canada's Instagram or something. That looks really cool.
And they're all like interchangeable, sort of like you can combine them, play them together, right?
As far as I know.
Yeah, I think so.
There have been throughout the years, there have been certain HeroClix that are, I forget what the word, but they're no longer relevant. They're like illegal, like for tournament play or stuff. They're not good because they came out with more and more powers. So you could play with one of like a Wolverine that came out in the first set, and he's going to get destroyed by the most recent Wolverine. He's got like this super healing. Meanwhile, this one back here could, reduce damage by 2. So yeah, they just progressively got stronger. So at a certain point, a lot of the older ones you can't play as. You're asking to lose.
Gotcha. All right, so my first pick here is way, way, way smaller and less complicated than HeroClix, and that's because it is a love letter game. I think the official name is Infinity Gauntlet, a love letter Marvel. I don't know, but whatever. Marvel love letter is probably what I'm going to start to call it, and it is the most different of the love letter reskins in that it does have a little bit of different rules. It's not just different artwork. There's a little bit of some different mechanisms involved. So if you've never played Love Letter before, it's a pretty small card game where on your turn, you're only going to have a hand of 2 cards, and you're going to play one of them, do whatever it says on the card, and that's basically it. You're trying to be the last person standing in that game by eliminating people out of the round. In this one, however, it is a one versus many or one versus all setup. So one player plays as Thanos, and the rest of the players are the heroes as a team. The win conditions are different as well. Thanos can win. So both teams have a life meter, and if at any point the life meter on either one of those goes down to 0, they lose. But Thanos can also win if he has all of the Infinity Stones in a combination of either his hand and or the cards that are already played in front of him. If he has them all, he snaps and he wins. Other than that, there's some basic actions on the cards that are very similar to the other Love Letter games, like, look at your opponent's card or compare hands, and lowest one is defeated or whatnot. I like this game. I love the artwork. And I like the idea of having a one bad guy that everyone's going against. But when it's only 2 players, which unfortunately is the only way that I've experienced this game so far, I think it's kind of lacking. Because a lot of the cards are team oriented, right? They'll say something like, choose a teammate to do this, to look at, Thanos' hand or something like that. And when it's just you're doing all that stuff, which is fine, but it gets a little fiddly and odd because when you're only the one person on the hero side, you take 2 consecutive turns. And so on a turn, you're drawing a card, and now you have 2, and you're playing one, and you do that again. So sometimes on that second draw, you're like, oh man, well, this card would have been better if it was the first one. And the one I just played is now meaningless because I didn't have this one yet. And the flow is kind of off. So I definitely would love to give this a shot with 3 or 4 players, but as 2, I don't think it shines that well, and I just don't think it's really designed for that,
Right.
to be honest. But I like it. Still portable enough that it comes in a little purple bag here. I got the thing right here. So it's small, a few cards, some tokens. That's pretty much it.
Nice. I don't really like Love Letter that much. I don't hate it. Melissa doesn't like it, and we only have the Christmas one.
Sure.
And we didn't even get to play it this year.
Yeah. I'm wondering if this one might appeal to people who don't like the other version.
It sounds a little more interesting. I would definitely give that a try.
Cool. Yep. Quick.
Yeah.
Quick and simple. All right, Eric, on to your numero dos.
All right, so my second, and this is perhaps one of my favorite games, definitely my favorite Marvel game. I've talked about it a bunch. It's Marvel Champions. It's a living card game, which I think is a terrible description of what it is. It's a collectible card game. You build a deck, and then you play the game with it. It's not a deck building game. It's you build a deck before you start playing.
Right.
And every time you get more stuff and more content, you get new cards that you can add for different characters. And there's a lot of content. It's great. And perhaps the best part of this game is that every time you get a hand of cards, you have, whatever your hand allows. So usually between 5 and 6. And you can either play the card as what it is for its cost, or you can play the card to pay for another card. And so each turn, a lot of turns, you get a hand of 5, 6 cards. Maybe you get to draw a card and you're like, I have all these good cards. I have so many good things to do, but I can only do like 2 or 3 things possibly. You can't do everything. You just don't have the energy.
Right.
And it's a great game. There's a bunch of different villains that you can play as. Pretty much you start playing as against Rhino because he's simple. Not that he's easy. He's pretty easy, but you can also play him on hard. But he's simple. And some of the other villains that you play as, they're a little more complex. There's a lot of bookkeeping. You can make mistakes easy. You can forget to do something, and then you're like, oh, this victory is tainted.
Okay, yeah. Do the other villains have difficulty levels as well, or is that just a Rhino thing?
All of them come with a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. Okay. And I think you play 1 and 3, or 2 and 3 if you want to play it on hard, or you play 1 and 2 if you want to play it on easy or regular.
Okay.
We never play on hard. We just want to enjoy the game. We don't want to get our butts handed to us. There's no shortage of content. Just recently, the Galaxy's Most Wanted came out, which is Guardians of the Galaxy. It's got Rocket and Groot and some villains. It's a new campaign. We haven't even played the Red Skull campaign. We just play regular games. There's too much content, and we own it all. We just haven't gotten to do everything yet. We haven't fought Kang. Haven't done a bunch.
Do you have your a favorite character in this game?
So we're working on that. We're playing through some of the characters that we really enjoyed playing as.
Okay.
So I think we've each played as all the characters at least once.
Okay.
And I've had a few favorites. I like Captain America. I like Ant-Man. And I like Doctor Strange. So we're probably going to play 1 or 2 more games to figure out who our favorite characters are before starting the Rise of Red Skull campaign and playing through that, where we get new villains and, I don't know, new stuff, maybe.
We don't know.
Don't know.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about this game. I really need to give it a shot. I was tempted to buy it. I was in Time Warp the other day, and I don't know. I can't pull the trigger on it. I want to play it first, and then I'm wondering if I'll need it if I play it and like it. Like you have it and Chris has it. I don't know if I'm going to need it. We'll see.
My brother has it.
There you go. There you go. So that's 3 people I know that have the game. Probably don't need it.
I believe, and we have yet to try this, but I believe you could play this over Zoom. One person would do all the villain bookkeeping, or everybody could. But I think it's definitely possible.
Cool. When you mentioned Doctor Strange there, I thought of another little anecdote. So Eric and I also, in addition to being friends for many, many, many years, got married within a week of each other. And I was in Eric's bridal party. Is that what we call it for men? I forget already. Yeah. Groomsmen. Yeah. And vice versa. And so it's tradition for the groom to give gifts to his groomsmen. And Eric gave all of us cufflinks with different superhero logos on them. And I got Doctor Strange, which is what made me think of that. And I probably have not worn them since then because I don't even wear regular pants anymore, let alone a shirt that would require cufflinks. But there'll be a day for that again, I'm sure.
And the mug,
right, which is somewhere up there. Eric gave us these mugs that said like Sir, as like a knight, like Sir Anthony the Responsible, I think mine was. I forget. Whatever. So. Everybody had a Sir Blank the Blank. Which was cool too, and a few of us had the same experience the first time we tried to use the mug to drink from, and it was more decorative than practical because everything kind of poured out the sides. But it's still up there on the shelf, so there's that. All right, so second pick for me is not your mainstream comic book universe. It is not DC or Marvel. It is the champions of Zeta City in a game called Heroes Wanted. This was, I'm pretty sure, the first game that I ever kickstarted, and it was very early into my getting into the hobby. This is basically, if you've ever seen the movie Mystery Men, this is like that premise where you talked earlier, Eric, about the C-list, heroes and villains and whatnot. This is like K or lower list, I think. You're basically trying out to be on this superhero team. And so because of that, you've got these really weird characters that you play as, and even the villains you play against are really off the wall. And it's not a cooperative game, but all the players can do damage to the main villain, but it is not a cooperative game. You're trying to be the sole winner. In fact, you could even fight each other if you wanted to. But the scenarios that you're in, there's 4 that come in the base game, are all these like low level things. Like for the first one, you're really trying to stop the villain from like littering and jaywalking on the street, and like that's the whole thing. And the one after that is like you're trying to stop these bootleg DVDs getting off the streets or whatever. So it's really, really funny stuff. When you build your character in this game, you take randomly one A card and one B card, and one card is the top half of your body, and the other one is the bottom half. And the bottom half is an adjective, and the top half is a noun, and you don't know what you're gonna get, and it's just wild. It's out there. The last time we played, I got super lucky and had an awesome character called the Gamer Lord. So it was a cosmic top half, and the bottom half was this glowing like six-sided die. And I was like, this is awesome. And Lauren had like the barefoot something or other. It was like nowhere near as cool as mine. But we fought against the sketchy cactus. And it's just an out there game. It's at the heart of it, it's a hand management game. You only have a few cards. They have a certain number value on them, and you're either going to play them for offense or defense, depending on what situation you're in. But you also have these optional, I should say, quirk cards that add to the zaniness of your character here, where it'll say something like, every time you knock out a henchman, you have to do a victory pose or something like that, which it's silly stuff that is definitely not everyone's cup of tea. And in two players, we don't play that way because it just takes more time for no reason, but it's really funny in a group setting. Do you remember the first time you played this game?
I remember the only time I played this game.
Okay.
And
you probably remember the quirk that I'm thinking.
I don't remember much.
Okay.
But what I do remember, I remember enjoying it. But I didn't know much about board games back then, so I don't know like what kind of reasons I had for liking it. I just remember enjoying it. And my character was called the Naked Laser. And at some point in the game, I had to touch somebody and like slide my hand and caress them and say, and whisper, "I'm the Naked Laser." And it was really cool and weird, but it was funny.
It was funny. It got you to laugh. And look, this is supposed to be that kind of game. It's really out there and wacky, and for that reason, it's funny.
Why play board games if not to be entertained?
There you go.
There's all different types of entertainment. This is more of a having a good time instead of a brain burning, like, oh, this is cool and I got to figure out what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
It's all fun.
For sure. But there's enough things to do in this game. It's a bit of a point salad because you basically can achieve these different headlines in the game for doing various things. So there's all kinds of ways to get points. There's a main villain, then there's some underlings. I forget. There's like minions and henchmen, or henchmen, underlings, whatever. There's like a bigger one and a smaller one. And you can just beat up on these guys like left and right and just rack up all these points like that. And you can even fight each other, like I said, if you want to like punch someone else who's playing for no reason, but you get some damage, you get some headlines that way too. It's a lot of fun. Again, probably better with a bigger crowd than two, but I don't hear anything about this game anymore. I don't hear anyone ever talking about it. I'm curious how it would do if it came out today, because I think there is a market for a not mainstream comic universe. And I know Sentinels of the Multiverse did that pretty well and to much success because they've had a ton of expansions and different versions of that game as well.
Yeah.
We've talked a little briefly about that one before. We're neither one of us are big fans of that game, but it's cool to make up a new universe. It's new characters, new villains. And in this game, Heroes Wanted, I mean, the replayability there is basically endless. Check out Heroes Wanted. You may be able to find it on the cheap. Who knows?
It is a fun game.
Yeah. All right, so we're getting close to the end here. We had 2 games each. Eric, anything else you wanted to mention here about superheroes or comic books or anything?
I have a laundry list of different things I could talk about with comic books. I feel like I covered a lot of it in the beginning, and I don't want this to run too long. But yeah, I love Marvel and DC. I love all the movies. If it's entertaining, I like it. Sure, not all the movies and everything are great, but it's fun. I love the characters. I love the universe. I love what they do with the characters. I like it when characters change, and then at some point they just go back to the original anyway.
All right.
But
real quick before we finish, give me your 5, in no particular order, 5 great Marvel comic book characters.
Heroes or villains?
Anything. Just
All right.
notable.
Darkhawk, Deadpool, if he counts as a hero, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and Multiple Man.
Okay. And top 3 favorite villains.
Juggernaut, Omega Red, Bullseye.
There you have it, folks. All right, my friends.
Oh, you
Thanks.
can't leave me like that without doing
What?
DC Comics.
Oh, all right. Well, go ahead.
Firestorm, Nightwing, Atom, the Atom. A little small.
Not Adam, Adam.
Right.
He's a punk.
So there's how many was that?
3.
Aquaman and Guy Gardner. Best Green Lantern there is.
Okay. And villains for DC?
I like a lot of the Batman villains. I think he's got an awesome rogues gallery. So I'll go with Two-Face. I like the Riddler a lot as well. And Deathstroke. And Lobo, if he counts as a villain or a hero.
Why? What is he?
He's kind of just a jerk.
So he has no allegiance?
Not really. Not
Cool.
really.
All right. Cool. It's kind of like Deadpool?
He's more of like a galactic Deadpool because he's kind of a mercenary, a bounty hunter.
Okay.
But he's almost a carbon copy of Wolverine's attitude.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
All right, folks. So before Eric gets into any more tangents here, we'll start to close things out. Thanks so much for watching again. And again, in the comments, let us know all the other superhero games that we did not talk about. See if you mention any that Eric maybe doesn't know, which I would be shocked by.
And the best superheroes. C and D listers, though. C and D listers.
Yeah, that's true. Let us know your favorite C and D listers for sure. And let me know if you ever played Heroes Wanted. I want to know if I'm the only person who owns that game still. Make sure you like and subscribe, folks, and we'll see you next time.
Have a happy National Superhero Day.
I don't know.